In a culture that tells us we can choose motherhood or, Good Counsel knows we're meant for motherhood and. Hi, I'm Samantha Elbertson. I work on behalf of the maternity home Good Counsel. We have 4 homes in New York and New Jersey where motherhood is rescued, preserved, and celebrated every day. Welcome to our podcast, Motherhood and, where we spend time talking with women living out their vocation of motherhood and their roles in the community. We speak to pro-life activists, contributors to Catholic culture, entrepreneurs, great legal minds, gentle, humble hearts, those who work on behalf of women in need, breaking cycles of poverty, abuse, and homelessness, and mothers working every day to form and nourish a new generation. This is Motherhood and. Today, I have the honor of speaking with Sister Dede Byrne. She's better known as Sister Dede, Sister Soldier and Surgeon. She's an active missionary sister and superior of her community in Washington, D.C. Sister Dede is double board certified in family medicine and general surgery. After a life of medical and military service in far-ranging areas, she was led to the Little Workers of the Sacred Hearts community, whose charism involves sisters placing each and every person they care for between the hearts of Jesus and Mary. Her apostolate has been performing overseas medical missionary surgery and providing pre-medical care for the poor and uninsured. The over 125-year-old community includes 400 to 500 members, and in her personal calling to speak on behalf of life, Sister was asked by Chris Bell to join the board at Good Counsel, working and praying on behalf of the mothers and babies we serve. And I'm blessed to have Sister with me today on the Motherhood and podcast. Sister, could you share with us how you first started with Good Counsel?
Yeah, I was at a 40 Days for Life prayer vigil, and Chris Bell was there, and Joan was there. I'm trying to remember. I had sort of been lopped up into the more of the public world because of my big mouth. I had prayed about an hour. I had prayed in August of 2020 and asked to be God's voice for life in any way. And Lord, it was before the Blessed Sacrament, use me in any way. And about 2 hours later, the Trump White House called and asked if I would speak at the Republican National Convention.
Wow.
And I didn't even think, we are a very traditional community, and we wouldn't normally do anything like that without, getting permission from our Mother General, who's from Rome and is Italian, probably wouldn't understand. But I just took this like jumping the chain of command to God directly, because when I said the prayer, and then 2 hours later, the White House calls and asked, and I said, could I speak on life? So I bring this up only because people started to hear more about me, good and bad. I mean, I got attacked, called all sorts of names, but for the pro-lifers in that community, they were grateful, because I also implored the Blessed Mother to pray for the pro-life president. And I'm, we're called Little Rome here in DC. We've got a lot of traditional good communities. And I can remember before the election, and before I was even on the radar to speak at the RNC, one of the superior at the Missionaries of Charity said, I don't know why they thought I would even have any connection, but they said, Sister, if you ever get a chance to see Mr. Trump, you tell him, she held the rose, that he has a whole band of sisters praying for him. And so that's what inspired me to lift up the rosary and say, Mr. President, you have a whole band of, or I forget exactly the word I used, of religious sisters praying for you. And asking our Blessed Mother. And so with that, Chris had seen me at the thing, and he just asked me would I join the board.
Yeah.
So my role is to be a board member, and I am like the world's worst board member.
Oh no.
Because they have I have to be a guardian of our prayer time. So I try to plan things in between our prayers. So we and their meetings are always right at the time when we're just finishing up with our morning prayer or anything. But Chris said, I'm absolved that as long as I help with other things. So I help with things, you know, in
And
whatever
pray
ways
for
they,
the mission.
yeah, pray
Right.
for them and in whatever ways, whatever little ways they want me to help in helping with writing letters or whatnot for
Mhm.
fundraising. And it's been a real honor because then I've gotten to know, and I didn't even know Chris or Joan at all.
Mhm.
I didn't realize the saints that are there.
Mm.
And when Joan was arrested
Mhm.
and undergoing trial, we had Jean and Joan and Chris, two of Chris's children, who we hosted and stayed at our home during the trials.
Oh, right, yes.
And we, you know, we just did all we could to nurture them, make sure we have prayer wise was easy because we have mass every morning here. We have
Right.
evening prayer, we have midday prayer, and then we have you know, we have the rooms to accommodate. We have a pro-life house next door. We have two sisters, two women who are trying to start their own community who go to a man named San Angelo. He's a third trimester abortionist who kills babies here in Washington in their
Right.
third trimester. And even if they're born alive, he's been noted on gosh, on that, what's the name of the group? I'm sorry, I blocked with the name, but Lila Rose's Live Action. Live Action covered it on the undercover of hearing Sant'Angelo say that if a baby is born and alive, we let him just leave him go. You know, don't have your baby born and take him to the hospital because they'll resuscitate the child.
Right.
You keep him here and let the baby die. That definition is by definition infanticide.
Correct. Yeah.
So they're all in prison because of this live action. They saw that, they went and prayed and sang and blocked entrance. Not really that bad, but anyhow, they're in prison possibly for 11 years. So I got to know Chris and Joan even more and realize how blessed we were to be able to host living saints.
I know.
And Joan, you know, calls the cell her Carmelite, her prison cell, Carmelite cell, and with an extended retreat period. So, so that's how I got to know Chris. He reached out to me. Since I told Jesus I would do anything for life,
Right.
anything for him. That was it. So I try not to say no, but it's not always I'm not the best board member. I'll just say it that way.
Once again, you are redefining your role.
I told Chris,
You are the
I'm
board
happy to
member
be.
we need.
Yeah, I told Chris, I said, I'll be glad to if I don't have to really, if I try to make the meetings if I can, but I can't promise you. So,
Right.
and he was
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
So, and well, Father Fidelis is on the board and he's tied up in prison.
Right.
He's got a better excuse than I do. So,
Oh, well, you spend your time in prayer and again, remaining in the state of grace so you can bring others. So that's first and foremost.
It's an everyday trial and struggle for all of us to be in the state of grace because the devil will take our weakest point and play havoc with it.
Yeah.
Yes, when you think, the minute you think, all right, I'm so good now, and then boop, can you believe that jerk? Whatever. Not jerk, but
That's
in
the
other words,
joke after
something
mass
little.
in the parking lot.
What'd you say?
That's the joke that after mass, everybody's lost it in the parking lot.
Yeah. That's right.
Oh, I know.
Like
A lot of times.
St. Philip Neri used to say, Lord, don't leave me for a moment. I can't be trusted.
That's right. I love St. Philip Neri. Yes. Yes. Even this podcast, trying to do everything on the technical end, I'm always I'm not fearful or nervous about talking because it's just a conversation, right? two people having a conversation. I'm just always nervous, and I don't need to be, but what technical difficulties we'll have. And it seems like the past two have been particularly troublesome. I spoke with Teresa Bonapartis of Lumina, so she was speaking directly about her abortion, how she was able to find healing and wholeness, and now how she works to help others find healing and wholeness. And she works from everybody who has been touched by abortion, from the woman who had had an abortion to siblings who found out that they've lost siblings to abortion. So, I mean, men, women, the retreats are really beautiful and fruitful. And man, the beginning of that talk was just like technical issues up and down. And probably the first 20 minutes, we were just trying to get it together. And then even the end of the talk, where she thankfully, it was just like she was plugging her book and just trying to give resources. It was missed, like it didn't record. So I was able to remember it and go back in and give the resources myself. But I was just like, of course, it's this one, because it was just so true and moving and profound and prayerfully, we hope it impacts people and helps people and spreads the word of what she's doing. But
well, you should have your office, bless your office every morning with holy water. And I see the Sacred Heart of Jesus there. This is kind of our medal. Our symbol is the same. Our founder designed it in 1894.
Oh, wow.
And so you've got all the great.
We're
images.
trying. I pray the rosary beforehand, as time allows, between kids and recording. And I have my bottle of holy water, exercised water. Our priest does nothing less. And we just started, my friend and my mom and I just started a devotion to the Sacred Heart of Jesus on First Friday. So we're trying to do all the things to stay in the state of grace and use all the tools at our disposal for to be a channel. So because it's tricky. Anytime you're using technology, it can go off the rails quite quickly, and you can't explain why. So so how about would you like to talk to me about the mission of your order? You spoke a little bit about it, but anything that you'd like to
Well,
talk
our
about?
community started in 1894. Our founder wanted, speaking of the Sacred Hearts, he wanted a group he started with women who would promote the heart of Jesus and the Immaculate Heart of Mary in a time in southern Italy. Now envision a cold day in New Jersey without heat, or in the summertime without air condition. Well, that's southern Italy all the time. The conditions are very harsh. The mountains are high, and and people were not living a faithful life. So he was a very holy priest. He came from a wealthy family. Monsignor Francesco Maria Greco was his name, and he came from a family of pharmacists. And he was he was planning to go to pharmacy school, but he felt called to religious life, priestly life. He's a diocesan. And then he went on to become a priest. He created this image of the two hearts circled by the crown of thorns, and like the words in Italian, "Thy kingdom come," and then the motto of "Taste and see the sweetness of God's love," with the pierced heart of Jesus and the sword in Mary's heart. And in the beginning, they had a lot of struggle. His sister Teresa was helping him. She was only 25, and the two of them were like best friends. And then she died. And the first catechist to join their work, because they were well formed. The Greco family was well formed. But their first catechist was a woman named Raffaella, and she was from a wealthy family as well. And so she took on the work. She worked with the founder to begin the Little Workers of the Sacred Hearts, and they donned on the habit which we wear. I'm not wearing it right now. It's more of, this is our work habit, but it's a black habit. Can't believe I don't have it. It's a black habit with hearts of Jesus and Mary.
Mhm.
And that's our original habit. And one of the things that drew me to the community was that habit, which was started soon after 1894, or designed, is the same habit our sisters wear today,
Mm.
for the most part. So that after the Vatican II, I say the Vatican II hurricane,
Mm.
our sisters were little and humble. You know, the Southern Italians, little
Mhm.
piccolo ladies. And all they felt, they were little and humble, that all they felt was a little breeze over their head, and refused to do any modification, like, you know, what we've seen today after Vatican
Mhm.
II. Some sisters modified so much that they wore just lay clothing with a
Right.
little lapel pin. So we
Right.
still, so what one consoling, one of many, was that our community weathered the storm of Vatican II.
Mm.
The Southern Italians, which is where it started in a village called Acre, are very strong women. You know, the movie Cabrini is coming out.
Yes.
And she was epitomized many of our own sisters, the way they were, especially in those early years.
Mm.
And so he wanted, so catechesis is a big part of our work. Even when I work as a surgeon, I'm catechizing, because I have many patients from Central America, South America, who are cohabitating, contracepting, they have
Mhm.
intrauterine device in, and if they're Catholic, I teach them how these things are working, the birth control pill,
Mhm.
the IUD. The IUD is like the worst,
Right.
and they're all bad, but this is the worst. The minute I explain to them what they have inside of them or what's going on, they immediately want it out.
Mm.
So many of them get contracepted without even any permission in their country, and they come like that.
Mm.
So catechesis is a big part of our work regardless. 80% of our sisters are school teachers. The other 20% are other things. So we have rehabs, we have missions in India, Albania, Argentina, Italy, and then we're the smallest in the United States. The majority of our sisters teach preschool. Our house in Washington is the medical mission house.
Okay.
So in our house, we have a pro bono physical therapy clinic and a pro bono diabetic clinic. And no, I'm not an ophthalmologist. Oh no, in the eye clinic. I'm not an ophthalmologist. I'm not a physical therapist. So God has a great sense of humor, but I started this in 2008 or so, through wonderful supporters and volunteers. And it's wonderful because I can step away, and it goes without me,
Mm.
in my butting my big nose in there. We do also, in part of in lower level, we have the abortion pill. Well, we have our pro-life center. So we have a really nice 3D ultrasound machine.
Mhm.
We have a lot of sidewalk counselors who, if they can bring a mom in who wants to change her mind.
Mm.
And we have we're supporting two sisters next door, two women who want to start their own community, that go to San Angelo every day.
Oh, wow.
So they just brought a mom in. I'll just show you while I'm talking, I'll show you what we found here. So this mom came in 2 weeks ago, thinking maybe she would uh, end her miseries of because her husband, she's actually married, but her husband, it's a story we hear all the time, isn't it? Of lack of support with a family member.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, working for Good Counsel, I've heard I have on Wednesdays I do the manager meeting. It's just hearing the day-to-day and the plight of the moms is
mhm,
it's not always there's very dire situations, but so
mhm,
often it's just that she
yeah.
felt alone.
Well, this came in
Oh, wow.
twins.
Oh, God bless it. A baby.
So we're doing all that we can. We're gonna try to help her.
Yeah.
Marriage situation is horrible.
Mm.
But she doesn't want an abortion now, and so So we have that, and then I do the abortion pill reversal, which is a national group who, for your listeners who don't know, basically if a woman takes the methylprednisolone or RU-486, which now they can get over the counter or they can get
I know.
online, which is
Yeah.
malpractice, because it's not the morning after pill. It's not the pill that you take because you think you might be getting pregnant. It's the pill that you take somewhere in the first trimester, which will block the effects of the natural hormone progesterone from allowing the baby to grow. And this bad drug will block that effect, and the baby will die from not being able to get the nourishment. So what we do is if a mother takes this pill and she gets online, she goes, what did I do? I can't believe this. How do I reverse my abortion? The national APR website comes up, and it's pink, a lot of pink, and moms with babies. And then a nurse is on call 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And they'll look at look where the person's from, and they'll find the doctor in that area. And I'm on the list of this DC area. And then we get them started ASAP on progesterone. So we flood the body with progesterone to knock off that bad key that would be blocking the growth of the baby. And we've been about 80% successful. And we had we had one mom, she delivered him a little bit early, 32 weeks, but she calls him Baby King. And she's so excited. She was a reversal.
Wow.
And you're going to read on, if you just go online, this is what the evils of our internet now. You cannot believe the internet, and you can't believe a lot of doctors. You can get on, like, can I reverse my abortion? You'll see all these things come up. It's impossible. It's dangerous. It's going to hurt the baby, this and that and the other. Or
It's going to hurt the baby, so you must kill the baby.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it will cause the baby to have fetal anomalies.
Right. So
which
it's
is
not.
It's not true. So that's our community. Basically, our community is rooted in prayer. We have prayer 4 times a day, daily mass, adoration every day. That's a no matter where you are in the world, in our community, you'll be able to go to mass, and traditional. Our mother general's in Rome. Our mother house so we have the general house in Rome. We have the mother house in southern Italy where we first started. And that house used to be a hospital. In the early years, in the early 1900s, we had a hospital going. But that's now been transformed into a preschool and a nursing home. And so sometimes we transform our houses to do other things, but depending
as
on
the need arises. Right.
Yeah.
A lot of preschool. That is probably just as challenging work.
Yeah, it is. It is. We have 2 big ones in Connecticut, Stanford, and in our compound, we have the school itself. So in one house, we have about 100 children, and then another one, we have about 40, and they're about 3 miles apart from each other. So the Stanford families are very,
very involved.
Our schools in India, we have 1,000 children in the school that we own and manage. We have sisters in Italy that teach as early as preschool all the way up to the university level. We have, a few. I think we have one canon lawyer, and I think I'm the only doctor, but we have several nurses. And in Argentina, we do soup kitchens, preschool. We have like Ronald McDonald sort of house, where we help families who have children who have cancer to kind of support them as their children are going through chemotherapy or whatnot. So it's very poor in Argentina. Yesterday, they just canonized the first Argentinian female saint. And so some of our Argentinian contingents in Italy were there. So in
Oh,
Rome, in the
wow.
Vatican. So that's
Yeah.
actually you can see that's our habit. You can see.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Mhm.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. So, and the beautiful thing, so this is the sister that came here and trained in Italy with them in the background. She's the nurse in a villa in Torrevecchia. She was here in DC. But just as a interesting note
Mhm.
of this beatification canonization, the mass was all in Latin, St.
Mhm.
Peter's. Lots of bells, lots of incense, all in
Yeah,
Latin.
nice.
So
That's beautiful. Who made that decision?
yeah,
That's right. That's right. Yeah, our priest
can be
always says,
done.
you're gonna get the bells and smells here.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
do
if
the
it's
bells
so
and smells.
bad, why would they do that? You
I
know?
know. It's yeah. We we often defer to the lowest common denominator in a search for not offending anyone instead of elevating them to what they could be and their dignity. We bring everybody down to a base level
Mhm.
and act like that's virtuous somehow. And I know there's lots of people who have um, you know, the right mindset, the right heart, but it just seems like the wrong means. We should always be striving for what else can we do, Jesus? What else can we do? How better can we glorify you? How better can we align ourselves? How better can we protect ourselves? How better can we serve?
You
And we
know,
shouldn't put limits on our
what you're
communities.
saying kind of triggered a thought in my mind I wanted to
Mhm.
share with you. So we had been having the Latin Mass all through COVID because our priest who was saying Mass for us, studying canon law, that's what he asked if we could do. And so I kind of fell into that beautiful, rich
Mm,
liturgy. And part of the Latin Mass is you receive on your knees and on your tongue.
right.
Okay. So we have a little kneeler. We have a small chapel. Chris and Joan Bell have been there. So when you go somewhere else, all of a sudden you feel this little anxiety, like, especially when it was like the COVID, are you going to be able
Right.
to receive? I would always receive last.
Mhm.
I was someplace in the Midwest where the priest said at the very beginning, no one can receive on their tongue here. I was like,
Mm,
so, and I looked over because I was with friends that I'd met at this event that I'd known in DC. We looked at each other like, okay, that's good. So now I'm up in Connecticut and we were having an event for our founder and it was in our school gymnasium there. So it wasn't the most majestic environment, but I decided, Lord, and they were all going up and it's a gymnasium. They're all going like this.
mhm.
And I'm saying, Lord, I'm having this little conversation, Lord, I want to honor you the way I feel you should be honored. But I don't want to stand out. Part of religious life is not to stand out,
Right.
to be kind of blend in with everybody. But I said, so I'm having this little conversation in my head as I'm going up. I decided to be the last one at least, so the priest, at least if I receive on my tongue, he hopefully won't reject me.
Mhm.
Well, I'm sort of halfway down and I feel a push on my back and a voice within me says, honor me.
Mm.
So I go and I genuflect and receive on I'm genuflecting like on one knee because I'm afraid if
Mhm.
I get on two knees, I might not get up
Oh.
without a kneeler. So I'm on my one knee receiving on my tongue. And then I'm a little bit embarrassed for one thing because,
Mhm.
I look back and nobody's behind me. So I go at the end, I go and sit and after Mass, about 5 couples that I've gotten to know over the year a young couple like you came up to me and they said, Sister Dede, thank you so much for receiving
Mhm.
the way you received. We always want to do that, but we never know if this and that and the other. And I said, guys, I had no choice.
Mhm.
It
You
wasn't my
literally were
decision.
pushed.
I was given that,
Mhm.
mission.
Mhm.
So it may not be for everybody, but this is how Jesus wants me to receive
No,
on my
absolutely.
knees and on my tongue.
Mhm.
So wherever I go, that's how I receive. And I remember being at a funeral not too long ago of a dear friend bishop who died in Louisiana. here in DC. And I was the only one pretty much that received on my knees and on my tongue. And
Wow.
I could see the priest going, like a little kind of funny look on his face, like, oh, brother.
I know. I
But
know. No, as a layperson, I have similar experiences. I had been sort of loosely use the word discernment loosely as far as veiling is concerned. I had friends who veiled, and I liked the idea of it, and I felt like learning more about it. Why are things veiled in the church, right? Just a
mhm,
further deepening of my own understanding.
mhm.
And but it always felt like a highlight, like oh, look at her. She's, like people were gonna look at me and say, well, who does she think she
Oh,
is?
because of the mantilla,
Yeah. And so but I had a friend who did, and I learned more about it. And then during COVID, when we were in New Jersey and we had to keep 6 feet apart, all the things. I mean, it was even mandated, and I know my priest didn't have a choice, mandated that after uh, the consecration, we we put Jesus back in the tabernacle and then had to bring him back out at the end of Mass. And the thought was to receive and leave. And it was mandated from like the governor. Um, so it was particularly that was
troubling.
that was really yeah, really troubling. So I remember going in to Mass, and my hair was wet. I was running really late, and I was just by myself. And I had a scarf that I would put over my mouth to be able to go into Mass. But my hair was wet, and I was feeling a certain way about that. And a sister, and forgive me, I don't know her order. She was getting out of her car at the same time as me, and she commented on how pretty my scarf was. It was floral. It was very pretty. And she said, "Oh, that is a beautiful scarf." I had it um, as I walked. There was like a guard, they had ushers and like guards making sure you had your masks on. Passed the guard, and I felt a voice inside me say, "You wear a mask when they tell you to, but when I ask, you don't veil." And I took it off my face, put it over my head, and walked through without a mask. And I haven't looked back. I thought,
And
oh,
you had what?
I haven't looked back. I've been veiling ever since. No one said
Hmm.
anything to me. But then even when we moved to South Carolina, there was still the division with, the distance between the pews, that you couldn't sit in pews right next to each other. And then everybody was receiving on the hands. I was grateful that we were receiving in the regular order of Mass, and they didn't change that there as much. But I noticed, and this is my first inkling that God was faithful in sending me to South Carolina. um, there was a group that lined up on the side of the church,
Mhm.
and I saw a veil. And so we went over there, and they waited, and we wound up doing it every week for months. We waited till everybody had received. And then our Monsignor and it's someone else from our community that approached Monsignor and said, "We need to receive on the tongue, that we feel called to this. And I don't think COVID should stop that." And so he did. There was a priest there at the end who, with all the antibacterial, would give to us on the tongue, but that line grew over time. I mean, you could see it would go to the back of the church. And so it was really, really interesting, especially as a witness to our children, and just how important it is to certainly follow that voice inside of you when you feel like God's calling you to something, even when it seems like, well, what difference is this going to make? But it makes a
Or it
profound
makes you feel
difference.
uncomfortable more.
Very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I went to the 10:45 Mass, but I went by myself one night to the Vigil Mass, and it wasn't, the one I was normally used to going, and I didn't even know everybody there. And one of the extraordinary Eucharistic ministers stopped me and said, "We don't do that here." And I said, "What?" And I
Where was
said, "No."
this? Where were
it,
you?
at my church in South Carolina,
Oh,
and
oh,
this was a
you
few
don't do
years
that. You mean
ago.
receive on your tongue?
Yeah, to receive on my tongue. So I was kneeling, and in the position to receive on my tongue, and she said no, and I said yes. And she said no, and I said, "I have been receiving this way all year." And she kind of said, "Fine." And I was like, "Body of Christ, amen." Like, Like in that moment that was so contentious. I had a priest even once at a different church have me wait to the end, and he did of his own volition um give out communion at the door, and I had to wait, and it was like a party favor. So anyway, there is such a need for reverence. There's such a need in our world. So to think that my little acts of defiance, or the overcoming the little
Hiding,
discomfort, right? I think they are significant, especially
they
since
are,
there is a growing community down here that is
they are.
feeding and nurtured with just seeing how high we can get as far as
Mhm.
glorifying God with our little ways in our lives, and the lives that we're forming. So I think there's a bright future, as grim as it looks. I think there's a
Yeah,
bright
it helps
future, and
because,
our kids are going to carry it on.
yeah, well, I mean, because we have to really show that Jesus is really present there. And if you
Yeah.
receive here, or in like one of those times when there
Right.
was in a place in Florida where they were receiving it in glad bags at the end of the,
Oh, Lord have mercy. No.
yeah,
Oh,
they just
goodness.
had the host in glad bags, and you would come in to the
Wow.
back foyer area, pick up your bag and go and receive in the car.
Well,
I
oh no,
mean,
there's one father in our community who
mhm,
he we have lots of little altar servers, and so
mhm,
they're not quite tall enough to swing the incense, and so he's our thurifer, and he'll chase you down.
mhm,
He'll chase you down. Oh, can you please receive that right now? Thank you. Yeah, no, because it's so important. It's so important that we also protect
mhm,
how vulnerable our Lord is coming to us in this way. He's already blasphemed everywhere. And
mhm,
so in our little,
yes,
it's our responsibility to make sure it's not in our home.
mhm, mhm,
So,
mhm.
yeah. Do you want to talk about coming into Good Counsel's homes at all? I know you were just recently there with Tom Ciotti and with Chris Bell, and you were speaking. There was one mom who had a miscarriage.
Yes.
We've had three, like back to back, with was it three, or I don't know if it was three miscarriages and then the stillbirth, or if that was one of the three losses. But I feel like it's becoming something that we should be talking about more, that idea that I don't know. I think that people don't talk about their miscarriages because it's personal, obviously. And
I think any mother who's had miscarriages knows the sorrow of losing a baby. And and these women chose to keep their child. And Good Counsel has been the avenue to give them a safe home and comfort and spiritual support. And what really touched me was that after this woman had her her um, delivery of a child who had died,
Mhm.
that she was still there with other moms, still healing and being nurtured and a part of the family. So when I didn't really know, Chris didn't tell me till later, but she sat at the chair and all the others, including myself, stood around her.
Mhm.
And I thought it was really symbolic of the support that people get at Good Counsel. Because
Mhm.
yes, the world wants, the devil wants to snare souls. They want to use the temple of the satanic temple of child worship by, you know, the Planned Parenthood
Mhm.
facilities. And the Good Counsel homes are the antithesis of that.
Mhm.
It's a home, in honor of our Blessed Mother, to nurture and support motherhood and parenting. And so I thought it was great. I mean, a little soul is in heaven now. That's the way
Right.
I see it. So she had all the support that all of us would want being in that situation, and Good Counsel became her family.
I know they after the passing of her child, they were looking for somewhere else to take her in, because understandably, the going back into a home with mothers and their children could be really hard for someone who just
Mhm.
lost their child. But there was zero to no no resources that would
Mhm.
be anywhere near as loving, compassionate, and care about her emotional, mental, and
Mhm.
spiritual well-being
Mhm.
in these moments.
Yeah.
So in as hard as I'm sure it is, like you said, she is finding strength in her community,
Mhm.
and she has resources to really work through, the devastation and the grief. So that it's been a really beautiful journey, because I know, even I was speaking with one of our case managers, and she said, really, we were trying to find a more suitable place for her, but it turned out that Good Counsel was just the
Yeah.
best home around.
Yeah.
Um, but that speaks volumes to the work that Chris has done, and all of our staff. It really
But they
is a
still need,
family.
still need donations, they still need funding, they still need
Mm.
support.
Oh,
What I,
more than ever.
yeah, what I loved to see was some of the girls who were there working had been Good Counsel graduates.
Yes, there's a few
You know,
that have
which is
come
really
back,
nice. It's
and
like giving back.
mhm,
So,
there's quite a few. So the full Good Counsel program and living within the homes, um, when you meet certain criteria that you'd be able to be self-sustainable. You have a certain amount in your checking account, you have gainful employment, um, you have appropriate childcare, the house and everything where you're moving is good, appropriate, and you can maintain it. You have all the skills, all of that we make sure that they're truly set up for success.
mhm.
And then when they leave and they have careers, so many of them are in fields where they give back, whether they're in, at-home nurses,
Mhm.
or we have a few that have become like EMTs. They're in positions where they are helping others, and then they'll even come back for birthdays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and celebrate in the home, because their friends, some get apartments together, right, with
Yeah.
another woman that they meet in the home, because it really is the environment. And I don't want to paint a rosy picture that doesn't exist. It's very real, and these are women at some of the hardest times in their lives working through it. So I don't want to make it sound like it's all rosy, and but the fruit that comes from it, the bonds that are formed. You hear so often in the moms that give speeches at our events, they're saying, I came in and I knew that they were going to help me, but I didn't really like X, Y, and Z. Oh, they told me that I couldn't, that there is a curfew and you have to pull your weight at the home. There's chores to be done, right? You clean up
Well,
after dinner.
these
Everybody
are
gets an
probably
opportunity to make
women who
dinner.
probably weren't parented.
They
You know,
had
they
exactly, there was
weren't
no
given the
structure.
guidance, and that's why they're in the.
Yeah, and then
Just
afterwards
another.
they say, kicking and screaming, but Miss Anissa was the one I needed, and she was there for me, and she taught me, and so I know we didn't have the great relationship, but I know God sent her for a reason. So
Yeah.
it's that kind of real help, not that apathy, or that, pushing women along and
Mm-hmm.
acting like, give them like, again, parenting and children, don't give them what they want, give them what they need.
Yes.
And truly, like you said, Good Counsel is that's their aim, to do that, not only for the children to have a wonderful foundation, second, of course, to a mother and father, but having that foundation in the homes. And it kind of breaks, we know statistically, it generationally breaks the cycle of poverty, breaks the cycle of abusive relationships, so that we can truly lift a woman and her whole family. So the work that
Mm-hmm.
she's doing is it is the sacred work, uh,
Mm-hmm.
that bears fruit beyond her own life. So it's something to behold, especially when going into Good Counsel's home. So I know that
Mm-hmm.
you got to spend some time recently, with them around Christmas, and you sang your Christmas carol, and that was so sweet to see. And but what's really lovely, is that we have adoration chapels in each of the homes, and we have mass said, if not weekly, at least monthly. And so that even if the moms aren't Catholic, we are trying to create an atmosphere where God is present in their lives first and foremost. And so they really can be covered as best as possible, as they're trying to make these huge changes in their
Mm-hmm.
lives, right? Get out from the clutches of their demons, get out from under their
Yes.
demons.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's see. Uh, is there any information that you wanted to give, like a website or a donation site about your order?
Well, our order, we are revamping it now. Our website is a mouthful, but it's our community name. It's Little Workers of the Sacred Hearts with an S.com.
Mhm.
There's a .org, but that's going to be phasing out, and .com is the new one. It kind of gives a good overview of our sisters worldwide, what we do. I think we're going to try to connect into the Italian website, but it's all in Italian. But it does show a lot of who we are there on that other side of the puddle.
Mhm.
You don't want to take anything away from Good Counsel donation wise, but if someone has deep pockets, on 2 deep pockets, we do have like a donation avenue via the website through our physical therapy clinic. We have
Okay.
it's LWSH, which stands for Little Worker of the Sacred,
Okay.
LWSHPTclinic.com. And when that shows the website for our clinic, our physical therapy clinic and our eye clinic, which allows people to refer patients, volunteers to sign up, but also to donate. There's a little donate button if they want.
Great. I'll
So
make sure I put those links in the little written section underneath this episode.
yeah,
I know we talked a little bit about this new project that you're working on. Do you want to go into more detail about that?
sure. Just real briefly, because we're gonna look time and everything, but we're
Sure.
gonna be having some uh, avenues of sharing more of what's going on. And I share a tale. It's called The Tale of Two Sisters.
Hmm.
Basically, I'm sharing the story of Sister Philip Marie. Well, first I'll say with Sister Leacha, I just lost her. She was my dearest friend, my superior, in September 2nd of last year. But she died here in our convent. I had her bedside solid for the whole week. She was anointed every day. I did everything. I said, Lord, we got to, and because she had dementia for 10 years. So she wasn't, she had an illness, that debilitating illness. And I had kept her alive. None of us are vaccinated in this house. We survived COVID. I do the early COVID therapy. She survived, but she had a few problems that landed her once in the hospital, and then another time we had her, she actually died with IV fluids going because she had developed something that the Lord was just calling her home. I was having a hard time letting her go. But she had the apostolic anointing and blessing in the Latin Rite, the old Latin Rite, the day before and the morning of. I mean, she received the precious blood on her tongue, which she hadn't been receiving in months. But the priest who was saying mass said, "We're going to give this to her." I had to like pry her mouth open. So she had the most beautiful death. And as she was dying, I said, "Sister, I don't want you to go, but I know you want to go and you want to, it's okay. I give you permission." And all of a sudden her breathing changed and she left there soon thereafter. Now, Sister Philip Marie, the week before, I could tell that they were trying to euthanize her in St. Charles, Missouri in January of 2022. And I called all these friends on her phone and I said, "Sister needs us now." So we had people coming from Texas, California, Mexico, Michigan, not Minnesota, Massachusetts, Maryland, DC, Florida, everywhere. We kept a schedule. So she would always have somebody at her bedside because we were severely worried about how she was being treated in this nursing home. And she was very articulate, I can share the link of our little teaser if you want to add that to the thing. But you'll see how alert she was, how much she wanted to come to Washington. She's very clear. They deemed her incompetent in January, but they also over sedated her and they you could see in after sedating her, her pupils were very dilated. And they were killing her. They were starving her and dehydrating her. The 4 times I went, 2 of the times she had no feeding. So because of her chronic condition, she couldn't eat by mouth. So she had a feeding tube. So it was very easy. It was like Terry Schiavo. But Sister was more articulate. Terry Schiavo, Bobby, I'm a good friend of his now, or I'm on his board for this because he and I have the same vision, desire to end euthanasia. But Sister was very articulate. In this video that you'll see, a small teaser, a man that I didn't even know offered to do this. He works down in EWTN territory. It was 6 months after Sister had been killed. The wound was very fresh, and I was in a lot of pain, and I want to end. It was like abortion. And when I asked God if I could be his voice for life, I didn't know it was going to be also for youth, for our elderly stuck in nursing homes. COVID was the scab that was unroofed and showed the evil of people being euthanized. Right. Especially if you weren't vaccinated. They shut you out, loved ones couldn't be with them. And this is what purgatory, maybe hell, is like: seeing someone you love, but you can't touch them. You can't, and they're begging to be with you. They're begging to, and it's your grandmother, your mother, and you see that they're being mistreated. Their mouth is full of. Sister was so mistreated.
Good morning, Sister Philip Marie.
Good morning.
How are you feeling this morning?
Very well, thank you.
Praise the Lord. Sister Philip Marie, what religious order do you belong to?
I belong to the Sisters of the Adoration of the Most Precious Blood.
Is that what CPPS stands for?
Yes, it is Latin.
I see.
For Sisters of the Adoration. It's superlative degree. Adoration, most adoration of the precious blood.
Ah, I see. Wow. So, Sister, why did you join this order?
Because Jesus called me.
Jesus called you to this order. That is beautiful. What do you love about this order, Sister?
It's adoration.
Adoration. You must miss that, eh?
Centered on the Eucharist.
Centered on the Eucharist. Wow.
What are they doing to my legs?
I beg your pardon, Sister?
What are they doing to my legs?
What are they doing to your legs?
Yes.
Sister, I don't know what they're doing to your legs. I'm very sorry. Are they hurting right now?
Why are they doing something to my legs?
Why are they doing this to your legs?
Yes.
I don't know, Sister. I don't know.
Something is happening.
What do you mean, Sister? Is something going on in you that's different? Do you feel different?
Are they using more drugs? Are they putting more drugs in me? I'm asking you, why are they giving me more drugs?
Sister, I don't know why. I'm sorry. Sister Philip Marie, do you want to stay here at this nursing home in St. Charles, Missouri?
No, I would prefer to go to Washington, D.C. This is my desire. I can have daily Holy Mass, which is very important to me. Daily Holy Mass, daily communion, daily adoration. All those things are necessary in my spiritual life. And that's what I would like, and that's what I desire. Those are my wishes. I don't think that that's a very fair agreement. They didn't ask my opinion or ask whether or not I would appreciate such a limit.
April 1st of 2022, well, first of all, I have a good friend, Janice Clark, who sat at her sister's bedside because I had to go back because Sister Leacha, my dear friend, was very ill. My mother was living with us. We had all sorts of activities, all the things that I had to do. I couldn't be there, but I was getting her room ready. We paid $6,000 for a ground ambulance to take her bed to bed from
Wow.
St. Charles, Missouri to Washington, D.C. Supposed to pick her up April 3rd. She would arrive in Washington April 4th. April 1st, of all days, they shut Janice out and they said, you cannot come back. Well, Janice witnessed that they had clamped her tube feet and the oxygen was off. And Sister, she got one last interview with Sister that morning. Sister, they were not gonna let me come back. And Sister said, I don't know why they won't let you come back. They didn't ask me. That's not my wish. I want people to come and visit me. I mean, this is how clear she spoke.
Yeah.
I was on a podcast with the Lepanto Institute with Michael Hitchborn, and I showed the video on his thing. He asked me to show it. He was very misty-eyed afterwards. It's only about 4 minutes or so.
Okay.
He said they weaponized the vow of obedience, because if Sister said, I'm going, I don't care, I want to go, she, at her late age of 88 years of age, she did not want to die being disobedient.
Right.
She decided to not go, because her community was, at 1 minute they said she can go, the next minute they said she couldn't go. And then we were blocked out, including the priest to anoint her. And he got his way in and he texted me and said, Sister, I hate to tell you this, but she has no feedings and she's getting weaker and weaker. And then we got a cryptic message from a nurse at work there, April 4th, to say that Sister had died. So our project is on this euthanasia thing. We've got some really good people on it. Roy Schumann, who is a convert from Judaism to Catholicism. His mother survived the Holocaust, but didn't survive a nursing home. She was euthanized in the States. He wasn't a power of attorney, so he couldn't do anything. So we want to expose this ugliness, but also use it so that we ourselves can prepare our loved ones, be more watchful of the healthcare system, because I'm a doctor, but
Yeah.
I think our healthcare system and a lot of our physicians are, need to go to the ICU. We're at 911 emergency. Dr. Peter Desmond Tucker Carlson interviewed this doctor, Peter Desmond, who talked about the mass transformation psychosis where the world went cuckoo during COVID because of isolation, fear, anxiety, and feeling of worthlessness. And those 4 things create a recipe of having everybody feel like, you have to wear the mask, you have to be isolated. Everyone loved ones. If you're not vaccinated, get out of here.
Right.
Isolate them in the ICU. I mean, in the nursing homes. You can't see them. You're going to give grandma COVID if you're not vaccinated. All these lies.
Right.
So it's going to be, so hopefully it's going to be done this year, but because we started out looking at this issue that we thought was going to be a small issue, it's expanded into something bigger. We're finding out that maybe Medicare has got their ugly hands into trying to get people to die sooner because they're expensive.
Right.
So that's it. I can share that with you if you want. You can go just look at it yourself, or you want to put it on the website. You can. And we're hoping we're going to have a fundraiser in St. Louis in April, I think April, first weekend in April, and then I'm doing another thing in New Jersey, sharing a tale of two sisters, because we want to die in the state of grace. We want to be able to get all the sacraments. And if you're euthanized, you're taken out of the picture, and God's taken out of the picture.
Right.
We want our loved ones and ourselves to be able to be given the chance to reconcile, to be in the state of grace, so that when the Lord takes us, we're ready. And
Right.
because at that moment of death, Padre Pio talks about, the devil wants to snare your soul. It's sometimes be a battleground.
Mm.
So that's
the dignity of people who are ill, the dignity of the elderly. Pope John Paul II, Saint John Paul II, and in showing and being so open with his Parkinson's and the end of his life, I think, was the beginning of us truly seeing that that there is dignity. I mean, we live in a world that is focused on comfort, and so as soon as anything even looks uncomfortable, they want to snuff it out. It must be so bad for you. But there's such value, and as you had said in the beginning, this is not our heaven, right? This is our cross. And so if you're taking away those moments for suffering and sanctification, then what a disservice we're doing to each and every soul. It's very hard, and much like the unborn, there's nobody to speak up for them. They can't speak up for themselves so often. So, and certainly I'd love to talk to you again when you launch your new mission. I'll be praying for you. Please pray for me. So
we'll do this
time's gotten
again.
away from us, but yeah, I would really love to do this again.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here with me, sister.
Thank you for the invitation, and keep up the
Absolutely.
great work with
Thank you.
Good Counsel and with your mother's vocation.
Thank you. Yes, pray for me, please. And I'll be praying for you in all of your missions.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Should we close with a prayer?
Absolutely, please.
Okay. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us
in battle.
Be our
Be our
protection
protection against the wickedness and snares of
snares
the
of
devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all evil spirits
who prowl about
the world, seeking the ruin of souls.
Amen.
Son, Holy
Okay,
Spirit.
Sam, you take
Thank
care.
you so much. You
God bless
too.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. In a culture that tells us we can choose motherhood or, Good Counsel knows we're meant for motherhood and. Hi, I'm Samantha Elbertson. I work on behalf of the maternity home Good Counsel. We have 4 homes in New York and New Jersey where motherhood is rescued, preserved, and celebrated every day. Welcome to our podcast, Motherhood and, where we spend time talking with women living out their vocation of motherhood and their roles in the community. We speak to pro-life activists, contributors to Catholic culture, entrepreneurs, great legal minds, gentle, humble hearts, those who work on behalf of women in need, breaking cycles of poverty, abuse, and homelessness, and mothers working every day to form and nourish a new generation. This is Motherhood and.